again, your teacher of English, Miss Mary. So today, remember we were still looking at paper 1, basically, stress and intonation. We've already looked at stress, and now we look into intonation. So basically, what do you understand by the term intonation? You know, sometimes when someone is talking to you, by the way they speak, their voice and the pitch they use to speak to you, you'll either know that this person is very rude or very polite, or it is a statement, or it is a command, or a question. So basically that is what intonation is. For example, if I tell you, please close the door, please close the door, and I tell you, please close the door, you can see the difference. One, I'm very polite, and the other one is like, I don't care. Okay? So, intonation is the variation in pitch, the variation in pitch, or as I would like to call it, the rising and falling, the rising and falling of pitch when talking. Okay? When talking, just simple, when talking. The rising and falling of your pitch when you're talking. Okay? So it's the variation, it changes, it either rises or falls, depending. So what makes a sentence fall under rising, or what makes a sentence fall under falling? So we have two types of intonations. The first one being, just from the definition that I gave you, rising and falling. So the first one is rising. Okay? And the second one is falling. So basically we just have two types. We have the rising intonation and the falling intonation. So we want to look at what makes a sentence fall under rising and what makes a sentence fall under falling. Okay? So the first things first, for the rising, we have statements. We have questions, okay? Open-ended questions. We have questions that fall under rising intonation. Questions. The kind of questions that only require a yes or a no. Okay? Yes or no, open-ended questions. Yes or no kind of questions. Are you coming home tonight? Yes. Okay? Have you had dinner? Yes. Are you going to school? No. Okay? So those fall under rising intonation. Questions that only require this kind of response. Yes or no. Where do they fall? Rising. Please do not forget that. Then we have the other one is to show politeness. Okay? When you're being polite, when you're serving courtesy, the sentences will fall under rising intonation. An example, let's assume you're having a conversation with your dad or your mom or your friend or whoever. Then they ask you, Daniel, have you done your homework? You see, that one is already a rising intonation. So I'm expecting something, yes or no. So that is rising. Daniel, have you done your homework? And then, how will you respond? If you respond and say no, that is falling intonation. What does it bring? It brings out the rudeness. Okay? So for you to observe courtesy and for you to be polite, you'll definitely use a rising intonation to express a little bit of doubt. Okay? To express a little bit of doubt. So you'll say no. Okay? to show I'm sorry, I'll do it. Okay? No, rising. Okay? So we have questions that end with yes or no to show politeness as well, and also to express expectations or doubt. Express expectations, stroke, doubt. Okay, let's assume you're talking about someone and they ask you, have you seen my dog? Have you seen my dog? You're not sure if you've seen my dog, so you'll be like, no. You doubt whether you've seen this dog or not. Okay, so where do we use rising intonation? Questions that have yes or no kind of responses. To show politeness, express expectations or doubt. Basically, these three. Okay? Then, here comes the trick. Falling intonation. What kind of sentences fall under falling intonation? One, questions as well, just like we have questions under rising intonation, but this time around is the WH kind of questions. Where are you going? What is your name? Okay? So the WH kind of questions, and also the how. How do you feel today? How are you? Okay, WH kind of questions and the questions that begin with how. All those fall under falling intonation. Then the other one is statements. Okay? Statements. Many times statements have the aspect of finality. This is the final thing, this is the stand I'm taking. So the sentence will fall under falling intonation. I am reading a book. It's final. I'm reading a book, there's nothing else I'm doing. I'm coming home tonight. Yes, I am coming home tonight. She is a girl. The finality. You see the finality. There is no more question, there is no doubt that you can't express. So statements fall under falling intonation. The other aspect also to show finality, as I have said, finality and the statements end up being the same. So WH questions that start with how, statements, okay? And when one wants to show a stand, the final stand, okay? One does not express doubt. So all these sentences will fall under falling intonation. So what mark do we use to show rising intonation? We just use the arrow and just draw that. Okay? Draw this arrow to show that sentence is in the rising intonation. Do you love me? I know you do. Do you love me? Do you love me? Do you love me? Okay, that is a question. So this one is under rising intonation, like that. Okay? Then falling intonation, the WH questions, the how, the statements, finality. Okay? What is your name? What is your name? What is your name? So, to indicate the intonation that this sentence falls, you will just draw an arrow that's showing that indeed it's a falling intonation. Either you can write or draw. Okay? So today, that was the basic thing, intonation. It was I, Miss Mary. See you next time.